right. Okay, so after some technical difficulties, which hopefully are resolved, all right, we were talking about beautiful, this beautiful shawl and how short rows were used to create this shape. And I have to say the color on this is gorgeous. Do you remember what yarn you used on this?
Yeah, that is Dream in Color Classy with Cashmere.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, I forget the color name. Visual Purple. That might be an old color name. That might not be the name of this one. Um, it was amazing to work with. Just wonderful.
Yeah, I knit a sweater for my daughter-in-law last year, the year before, and I almost didn't
Right.
want to give it to her just because I just wanted to keep knitting. It was just so
Right.
incredibly
Right.
soft. Yeah, this is a great yarn. So now, how did you accomplish the shaping with short rows?
So it is a series of wedges. Um, so you work back and forth on some of the stitches, and to make it interesting, um, the wedges, they get wider and then they get skinnier. They get long, and all the time they're getting longer. So there's sort of a sense of motion and momentum, across the shawl.
Yeah, really,
And these
really pretty.
also, no need to pick up the wrap in the garter stitch, and it still looks great without even picking up the wrap.
Yeah, wow, so pretty. Yeah, and I think,
Thanks.
yeah, Susan says this sounds luscious, and it is. If you haven't knit with that
It
yarn
is.
before, like once
Mm-hmm.
before you die, you should knit with that yarn. It's
Maybe even twice.
it's ridiculously soft and squishy and like everything
Right.
fantastic about yarn, all the things we love about yarn. So now I don't usually sew back and front on the sweaters, but I did on
Mm-hmm.
this one because I thought this was styled in an interesting way because you could wear this without pulling the back in for that shaping back there, right?
Right. Well, I never the stylists at Interweave when they were shooting it, um, they came up with that. I actually didn't think about how you could pull the back in like that, um, but I think it looks really great.
Yeah, I think so too. Though, and there are all kinds of ways that you could do that. And I think you and I talked about you could. What I really love
Hmm.
are those leather clasps that are made for
Right.
sweaters from Jewel, where because the
Right.
it has like a post that goes through your sweater, and it would give it a much more modern feel with nothing. If you
Hmm.
actually sit back in your chair like you're supposed to, that might not
Right.
necessarily be comfortable like on an airplane or something for extended period of time, but
Hmm.
yeah, but this is really beautiful. And tell us where the short rows are being used and how.
Okay. So this is the body is mostly it's worked sideways from a provisional cast on in the center of the back. So showing that back picture, you can actually really see what I'm talking about. You
Yeah.
cast on provisionally, work out to one side, then come back and work out to the other. So in the body, the short rows shape the lower edge. Um, it doesn't come down. You can't really see it in these photos, but it's not just a um, square blanket front with too much excess fabric at the lower fronts. That's actually shaped into a curve. And then short rows are also used. You pick up stitches for the garter collar, and it's a shawl collar. So the short rows they create the shawl shaping. So, it's deepest at the center back neck and goes down to skinnier, at the bottom of the front edge where the garter bands really begin in the front of the sweater.
Yeah, and I think what I really loved about this, in addition to this really soft, beautiful color that it's done in, is that you were talking about the shaping and how because a lot of
Hmm.
those kind of blankety, open front, drapey jackets are longer in the front and shorter
Right,
in the back. And
right.
for many of us, we kind of those shorter, they tend to hit in the back, like right at the widest part of your body, like so that your butt is like sticking out of the back. And this, well, I mean, that's it's the quick and easy version of a big rectangle, but this has such flattering shaping for most normal bodies, right? Because not all of us have a size 2 butt.
And it's good for all sizes, really, because there is a lot of fabric in the front, so there's not really an issue of if you have a larger bust, that's fine, really. There's a lot of fabric there, but there's not a lot of fabric at the bottom of the front, hanging down in front, because who wants all that fabric hanging there? Nobody wants that,
No. And especially if you take the train to work. It's just something you get caught in the doors. Don't ask me how I know that. But anyway, yeah. But it's really beautiful. What yarn did you use in this? Because it just looks really yummy.
That's Blue Sky Fibers Techno.
Oh.
So it's a bulky alpaca. Let's see. It has alpaca. I'm just trying to.
But it's really light and squishy, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yarn.
It's alpaca, silk, merino.
Mm.
So and the thing about this, I love this yarn. It's so light. With a bulky yarn, a lot of times, by the time you make a garment out of it, it's heavy. You're lugging around a heavy sweater, and it's so light. And it doesn't feel like you're wearing 10 pounds of sweater all day long.
Yeah, and it's not going to stretch out and reach your knees by the time the day's over.
It's great. I love this yarn.
Yeah, it's a fantastic yarn. If you haven't knit with it yet, you owe it to yourself, because it's really nice. And and I thought this was a really great example of how you can use short rows to create shape. And I love the color combination on these too, but these are really, really sharp mitts. Tell us about how short rows were used.
The mitts. So now we are into, because you're going through the book chronologically. So now we are into the yarnover method. And the yarnover method is nice because when you're doing what you need to do to create the extra loop that you're going to knit together later to close the gap on the short row, you're not digging down into the row below. You're just making a yarn over. And then it's a great method if you're changing colors on the row when you come back and you're doing all that working loops together with stitches. If it's another color than you used where you were creating the extra loops, the colors don't muddy together. So it's great for a nice, clean color transition.
Yeah, this is really sharp. And then, and Susan said this blue sweater that I was oohing and eyeing over looks like it's made out of cotton candy, which I agree. Yeah, these are really, really sharp and modern, and I can see them you could do them in 2 shades of white, or you could do, and get a really soft, like neutral look, or, black and white, and do something really graphic and modern, and, it really.
Gray and gray. Yeah. Neutral. I would knit them for myself personally, like 2 shades of gray, a darker and a lighter gray. That would go with every single coat I own,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this kind of a project is great for gift giving as well. And, you can knit them in team colors. You can knit them in, any combination you like. And great, too, for using smaller, amounts, leftover skeins of yarn as well. And there's nothing in this world that says you have to knit them both in the same color combination.
That's right.
Right? You could go wild. Yeah, Frances, they're really cool. I agree. So, and this is I love this. This is such an interesting way of mixing the colors and building the shapes, that it's such a modern take on on a shawl or a wrap. Tell us about, yeah, Susan says she loves this one. Tell us how short rows are used in this project.
Okay. Well, this one, this is the trichotomy shawl, and it is really the most experimental piece in the book, because basically in the book I just wanted to show how, you know, you don't have to use short rows to do outrageous things. You should just use them all the time to do normal things. But this shawl, it's not outrageous, but
No.
it just is a little taste of how you can use short rows to do things that are a little more visually unusual. So really, it's basically worked in 3 wedges, and one of them is a striped wedge, using the solid colors are garter stitch, and then the striped one is stockinette and pearl, so like a garter stripe.
Yeah, really pretty. Yeah, and Roxy says she loves the multi-dimensional look, and Susan says this looks like art, which it does, and Trisha loves this too.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's such an interesting piece, and it's such a modern piece of knitting, which is just
Right.
it's really, yeah. And Trisha says she loves this graphic look, and I think that's the thing is, you know, it's really eye catching. You know, it's just really eye catching, and just an invitation to test out the most unusual color combinations you can come up with, because they're going to look great.
Sure.
By doing that one triangle where it mixes the 2 colors together, you know, it's going to be pretty hard to go wrong on this one. So with the color
Absolutely.
combination, Susan wants to know what is the name of this?
This is called the trichotomy shawl. It has 3 main sections.
Yeah.
And the overall shape is sort of it's a triangle, definitely, but it's a little bit of a warped triangle, not a perfect right triangle or anything. But it's a triangle shawl.
Yeah. So nice. And lots of garter stitch.
Yes.
Yes, for those who are looking for something where they don't have to think quite so hard. So, and
I love garter stitch.
who don't really like to purl a lot. So, yeah, really pretty. Yeah, and Tootie says this will make a whole outfit. Yeah, which I
Right.
agree. I mean, you could wear a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans with this and you're dressed. So, which is really nice. So, all right.
Right.
And this I thought was such a cool use of short rows to create shape. So, yeah, I would never have thought of using short rows for something like this. So it was kind of, I had to go back and look and say, you know, because I'm thinking, what is like that intarsia in the front? What did she do? So tell us about how short rows were used to create this project.
Okay. Well, the short rows are used to shape the shoulder slope and the sleeve caps, but that's just in the main color, the brownish color. And then obviously you can see that with the contrast color, it creates the short rows create this visual detail on the front, and those front edges are worked along at the same time as you're working the body. That's not you're not you're not picking that up and adding it later or anything. So you're just doing it as you go along. You start them at the back neck, the back of the collar, but then as soon as you start the body, the shoulders, you're working that front edge right along at the same time, and only using one color at a time, no intarsia, because it's short rows. So you'll go down one triangle with, say, the main color, and then when it's time to add in the blue triangle, you just pick up all those loops, work your blue triangle, and then you're back to working the brown body again until you get to the next blue section. But it's all continuous.
Wow. Yeah, that's really
cool.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, Savannah Gal says she really likes this cardigan, and Susan says you have such nice crisp edges on those diagonals. It's really beautifully finished as well. It's really nice. And then this is the cover project, which I am obsessed with this sweater. I have to say, I'm obsessed with this sweater. And tell us where the short rows are used in this project.
Okay, so that's the button side sweater, and it starts with some textured shoulder saddles, but then short rows are used below the shoulder saddles to shape the shoulder slope, and they also shape the curved hems in the front, and they're also used, once you get past the like where the bottom button is, you're just working the body, and then you put those side stitches on hold, and then you knit on that lower edging, and short rows are used to shape around the corner there.
Wow.
And they're also used for the sleeve cap. That's another short row top-down sleeve cap.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. It almost looks like a pleated edging on it.
And it's just texture. Those are just little garter ridges, in a stockinette, like a stockinette fabric.
Yeah, Savannah Gal says she loves the color. Kate Alm loves the sweater. Mary S says it's a fabulous design. And Tricia says she loves the curved bottom and the side detail with the buttons. It's just, this is...
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, this is really a showpiece. This is one of those things that you walk around telling people that you knit this. So it's like, oh no, do you like my sweater? I knit this myself. Yeah, because it's really...
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
absolutely
really beautiful, really pretty.
Yeah.
And then I love this. I see this, high-low kind of thing all over the place. It's really, really popular. And I love how you used short rows to create that, as opposed to like doing a split and a flap and a longer back, and which
right
kind of typical. Yeah, Elizabeth says this is adorable. Tell us about where short rows are used in this project.
So this is the Broken Lines pullover, and there are short rows in the shoulders and in the high-low hem, because as you said, it's not a split hem. You just are shaping, high in the front, lower in the back, all as part of the body. And then, of course, short rows are used to create the contrast garter lines that are in the body of the sweater.
Yeah. So but I bet this fits really nice on your butt too.
I think it looks great. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet, because that short rows will give it a little bit more shape back there, so it doesn't like hang off your butt.
It doesn't just hang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It doesn't just hang like a tent,
Yeah, because that's so flattering. Yeah, Savannah Gal wanted to know if the stripes are intarsia or duplicate stitch, but they're actually knitted in, right?
Yeah, no, those are short rows. Those are short row stripes.
Wow.
And you're just, you just stop with the main color, use your contrast color, and you go on the body, you go partway around, and then you come back. And so that's a short row because it doesn't go all the way around. And then you just resume with your main color.
Wow. So pretty. So Donna said, with all of the methods of short rows, do you have one that you use primarily, or does it depend on the project?
It really does depend. And in the book, I do talk, for each of the methods, I talk about, potential pros and cons and things that you might want to think about when deciding what method to use. And some of those things that you might want to consider are, what kind of yarn you're using. Is it a nice elastic wool that's going to fill in easily, or is it like a cotton or a silk where maybe one of the methods might show and be more visible than another? and also, is it a large gauge or a small gauge? Because the idea really is, when you're doing short rows, is you don't want any holes or any discontinuity in the fabric to show. You really want it basically to look smooth. So the different methods do different things at the turning points, and some are more visible on the right side, some are more visible on the wrong side. And so those are all things to take into account. And so what you should always do, of course, is make a swatch and try a method.
Yeah, swatching. Yeah, and Savannah.
Always,
Go ahead.
Swatching is always the answer, even if you don't want it to be.
Yeah, I know. It's there, especially if you're going to make a garment. Oh, for God's sake, swatch. Yes. Otherwise, you're going to end up crying, and there should be no crying in knitting. So, but yeah, Savannah Gal says it sounds like someone has butt issues. Yes, Savannah Gal, I do. I like my sweater to fit. Yeah. So, okay. So let's look at this last piece that we're going to talk about today. And this is so pretty. I love just the asymmetrical opening on this, and just the ease of this piece.
Oh, thank you.
This is the kind of thing that you're going to toss on all the time. It's going to be one of your favorite pieces. You're going to wear it out. So tell us about how short rows are used, because I think how the kind of design lines run in and out and meet back up, it really just makes such an texture on this sweater.
Right. That is the main usage of short rows in this one. It's really just for visual interest within the stitch pattern. There are a few short rows at the shoulders, but because this garment, this is knit all in one piece. You knit it all in one go, and then you're done. All the edging is worked in, so it's really just to show that you can use short rows, like just for visual appeal in this case,
Yeah, and the fact that there's basically no finishing on it is
no finishing. Yeah. Yep, you have to sew on a button. That's all.
Yeah, I think most of us could handle that much finishing. So, yeah, and Savannah Gal says she just loves this. She loves vest. I do too. And the lower neckline, which is nice because it looks good over, a blouse with a collar on it. And Donna says this one's really nice. And Elizabeth.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Elizabeth says she loves the pockets. Are there pockets on this?
Nope. I think the model has her hands in her pants pockets, actually.
Yeah, Yeah, and Susan says the stitching looks like a drawing, which I agree. I love that.
Yeah.
And Roxy says this is really special. It could be done in lots of colors, and really depending on, what you knit this in, it could be dressy for the evening, with a pair of skinny black pants or something, or it could be something that you toss on over your blue jeans, or,
right.
If you were like my mom when I was a kid, you put it on over your pajamas to take your kids to school.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, and actually there was one more, and it's this cardigan, which has such an interesting and pretty texture to it. So tell us about how short rows were used.
Okay. This one is actually my favorite in the book, but I think with the wide leg pants, because it's kind of wide at the bottom of the sweater, I think it would look better with like a skinnier pant. So that's just my opinion. But this is a modified raglan construction. So it starts with just the back and the sleeves, and then when you get to the bottom of the armholes is when you pick up along the raglan line and add in the stitches for the front. And then the short rows, they really radiate out from the center back. So it's a little bit hard to see from the front of the sweater, but they're like expanding arcs that get a little bit wider and wider and wider each time you're adding an arc of stockinette between those purl ridges. So the back is getting a little longer. The fronts are, moving a little on the diagonal, and you're getting kind of a nice A-line swooping shape in the body. And then the same thing happens at the cuffs too. They widen ever so slightly, but just slightly, because I didn't want bell sleeves,
Yeah, and it said that Kate M says the texture is great with this yarn. What kind of yarn did you use on this?
This is, I think it's Northfield. It's Valley Yarns Northfield.
Oh,
so
that's
Valley
a nice
Yarns
yarn.
Is that's the Webb's yarn line.
Yeah.
So it's merino, alpaca, and silk. This was a wonderful yarn to work with. Merino, alpaca, silk, and it drapes so nicely. Like this is kind of a drapey cardigan, and the yarn worked perfectly for it.
Yeah, and Roxy says she loves the wider cups and bottom because they're both really flattering. And I think I do like that. I love the wider cuff. I think it just gives a nice line regardless of your body shape. I think it gives it a nicer line.
Right.
And actually, Donna asked about the yarn for the vest that we're all in love with.
The vest?
Yeah, about the yarn on that one.
The vest is Haiku from Skacel. Riley is the name of the yarn, Haiku Riley. And it is, it is baby alpaca, mulberry silk, and linen. So alpaca, silk, and linen, which is really unique and unusual, and not too heavy, not too light. I think it's good for a piece like this that you wear as a layer, over something else.
Yeah, and is that a fingering weight yarn or a sport weight yarn?
That is, hold on a sec, it's not fingering. It is, let me just look quickly in my book. I think it's DK.
Oh, wow.
Sport weight, number 2. Sport weight, yep.
Yeah, Savannah Gal says she really loves this. It's gorgeous. And Roxy wants to knit this in something glittery, which I would be the last person to tell you not to do glittery because there is no such thing as too much glitter, at least in my world. So Susan asks, in the book, do you discuss strategies for keeping track? She finds that her biggest challenge in short rows, which I hear you. I hear you, Susan.
Mm-hmm. Keeping track, you mean like in terms of how many short rows you've worked back and forth, or whether you're on the wrong side or the right side, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I know the problem. Susan says yes. Yeah, I think for me, it's like when I'm doing the sleeve cap, and it's like we'll pick up one more stitch on every row kind of thing, is sometimes I just...
I use a clicker.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so the traditional way.
Yeah, because it's you're counting. I mean, it's really counting rows. They're like rows within rows. You're counting short rows within the larger counting of rows that you might be doing on the main part of your project. So I don't know that there really is a particular strategy. Definitely start a separate count, because it's separate from, like if you're doing the body rows 1 through 100, if at row 50 you have to do 20 short rows, start a separate count. Use hash marks or a clicker. And especially, I hear you, Beth, about the sleeve cap. Sometimes I lose track of those myself. Yeah. And I have to go back and try to count to figure out where I am.
Yeah, and I made the mistake of putting down my son's sweater and not working on it for about 6 weeks. And while I was in the sleeve cap, and I've been arguing with myself whether I need to just rip it out and start over because I completely lost where I am. And that's my own fault for not writing it down because I usually do. Like Susan says, the turning back and forth makes her a little bit dizzy. And Tootie said, if anybody's interested in doing a knit along, So it's okay, Tootie. Nobody's who comes back and watches this is gonna be able to see that because we don't want to put your email out on the web. But
Right.
yeah. So so Susan says she's done Excel worksheets and divided the long rows
Sure.
into smaller parts. Susan, you and I are like sisters from different mothers, because I am equally obsessive compulsive about organizing. So yeah, so it's
But I think organizing is the key, and like Beth, you were saying about putting down your work and not being sure where you are. I try, religiously, because sometimes you think you're coming right back to it, but you don't actually do that.
Yeah, something
if I put something down, yeah, I try to write myself a note, like a note you would write to a 5-year-old. I have just finished row 5, and on the right side. The next row will be row 6 on the wrong side. You feel like a moron when you write it down, but then when you pick it up, you're like, oh, I know exactly where I am,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mary says
that's my strategy.
She does that too, and Susan says to be prepared, and Elizabeth says she post-it notes, and then Susan actually stabs the note onto her needles on the side.
Good.
That she's going to work next, which is really a good,
right,
because then you don't have to worry about losing the note. So, which is like the next step if you wait too long. So, yeah. So
Absolutely.
So I know people are going to want to like figure out what you're up to, Jennifer, and stay in touch. So there are places that you can go on the internet where you can follow Jennifer and all things short rows. So the first is Jennifer's website, which just happens to be her name.com. So, but here you also have the opportunity to look at other projects as well, and shop patterns as well. So, but you can see like this refracted shawl. I mean, look at this. It's like it's amazing. So, so you can go check that out. And then for those who are on Ravelry, Jennifer has a design page, which oddly enough is her name. Oh, and Susan wants to know, are you teaching anywhere in the Northeast soon?
Oh, Susan, I'm not really. I don't really, haven't really gotten into teaching. So sadly, I can't give you any places or classes where I'll be right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of the teaching thing is it's traveling, it's away from home, and it does cut into your knitting time. So, which is its own downside. So you can also follow Jennifer as Knitting Vortex on Instagram and see what she's up to there. And then one of my favorite things is to follow designers on Pinterest, where Knitting Vortex also on Pinterest. And I love seeing what inspires other designers. And I can see you do have a thing for gray. I do too. I love gray. I love all shades.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite things. And then also you can follow the Knitting Vortex on Facebook. So yeah, so you can keep up there. And we always encourage people to call their local yarn stores to purchase a book. If you don't win one today or later this week on Planet Purl's Facebook page, is if your yarn store doesn't have it and isn't going to get it, well, ask them why first. But then you can also help support Planet Purl so that we can continue to bring these great author events and, pay for GoToMeeting, that kind of stuff. So by going to the books link, and I think everybody knows, but if you click on, there are thousands of books in here, and there are links to their corrections as well, which can sometimes be hard to find online. So, but you'll see Knitting Short Rows is actually currently the most recent book on here. And if you click on it, there's a link to purchase it through Amazon, and Planet Purl gets a little commission for that, which helps pay for things like today. So if you don't win today,
Good.
you can go to Planet Purl's Facebook page, oddly enough, Planet Purl, and starting tomorrow morning, I'll be giving away a second copy online of Knitting Short Rows in case you aren't the lucky person today. So, and it looks like the ladies in the room are working out a knit along for at least one of the projects in this book while
Nice.
yeah, which is nice. I just love knitters.
Great.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool. So we'll be giving away a book shortly, so people do not leave the room who are here live and in person today. So Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and giving us a personal tour of the book. It's really beautiful. The projects in here are really spectacular, and I think you're made some converts today to the world of short rows. Maybe people will have a little more confidence to take on a new technique that really creates such a beautiful result. And so thank you for doing this book and helping knitters up their mojo, as I put it, with new techniques. And it's really beautiful. I wish you just a huge success with the book.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much, Beth, for having me on the show. It was great. I love talking with knitters, and I hope I've inspired some people to try or continue with short rows.
Yeah, and the book is getting much love in the room, as are you.
Yay.
So yeah, so thanks so much. Are you working on another book, or are you taking a break?
I don't have another book in the works right now, but I might in future. Definitely.
Well, I hope you'll come back and talk to us, once you recover from doing the first one and and decide to tackle a second one. Yes. And Donna says do more. She'll be definitely doing more short rows, which is awesome.
Yes.
So yeah. So when you see short rows around on sweaters, even if it's not your design, Jennifer, it may be your inspiration. So that's a cool thing. So, but
that's wonderful.
Thanks so much for being here. Everybody stick around, and we're going to give away a book.
Thank you.